Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
12 Americans detained in Yemen. EU to propose removal of Gaza siege. And Turkey and Brazil urge diplomacy on Iran. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
In Yemen, the number of detained foreign students suspected of having links to Al-Qaeda has reached about 50. These suspects are nationals of various countries: the U.S., Australia, France, Britain, and Malaysia. The United States announced that 12 U.S. citizens were arrested in Yemen without providing further explanations. Hamoud Nasser has the details.
Shiloh Giddens is an Australian woman and the mother of 2 children, Omar and Amina. She has been cooped up in a Yemeni detention center in Sana'a since May 15th, accused of being a religious extremist and suspected of having links to Al-Qaeda. Her 2 children were placed under house arrest. Yemeni authorities resorted to harsh measures that affected dozens of foreigners who converted to Islam and chose Yemen to learn Arabic or the principles of Islam in the midst of the escalated confrontation with Al-Qaeda.
On May 11th, the arrest process started. An investigation was conducted inside her home and the house arrest was completed. On May 15th, she was detained and has been until now. Today, the security said that she will soon be deported with her 2 children. The passports of the children were confiscated, and they are confined to their mother's apartment and strictly watched by the security.
English teacher Saida Shario was arrested after the Israeli Foreign Ministry informed her of its decision to recall her passport. It was later revealed that more than 30 foreign students learning the Arabic language were arrested in Yemen, including French, American, and British citizens. They were suspected of being affiliated with Al-Qaeda, either according to information given by their countries or by intelligence agencies cooperating with Yemen.
The Yemeni intelligence has not confirmed the information that it was given, but especially after the Umar Abdul Muttalib incident, this information has become very sensitive. Any simple information, accurate or inaccurate, may lead to the detention of the suspect.
Such a matter has a direct effect on the college, as it gives the impression that the college has a number of student suspects and such.
Umar Farouk is the Nigerian student who was caught trying to blow himself up in an American airport on Christmas Eve of last year. He studied Arabic in Sana'a College, and his capture led to the arrest of 7 other students in the college, including French national Jeremy Water, who was described as an introvert just like Umar Farouk.
We cannot deny the existence of Al-Qaeda and its heavy activities in Yemen, but this does not provide any justification for violating people's rights.
The incident of the Nigerian student Umar Abdul Muttalib has negatively affected most Yemeni colleges that teach Arabic to foreigners. Sana'a College, where Umar was studying, complains that it has to close down due to the strict security measures and the tightened noose on foreign students.
Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said that the nuclear fuel swap deal brokered by Turkey and Brazil with his country last month is an opportunity that will not be repeated. Ahmadinejad expressed hope in that the international community will seize the opportunity to find a permanent solution to the Iranian nuclear file. He warned that his country will not engage in new negotiations over its nuclear program if the Security Council was to impose new sanctions on Iran.
In Istanbul, where Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is participating in the Summit on Confidence-Building Measures in Asia, he directed a firm message to the international community, saying that his country will not agree to engage in negotiations over its nuclear program if the Security Council approves the new sanctions put forward by the United States last month. He warned the international community that it should take advantage of the nuclear swap deal brokered by Turkey and Brazil with Iran.
The agreement with Iran showed everyone that most countries of the world, and not just Brazil and Turkey, want to change the current situation. The meeting created an opportunity for the United States and for its allies, and we still hope that they will be able to use this opportunity because it will not be repeated.
The message came hours before the Security Council held a closed-door session to discuss Iran's nuclear program before voting on the matter in the next few days. Turkey and Brazil had asked the Security Council to hold an open session before adopting the sanctions. That meeting was held on Monday. The two sides believe that the new sanctions will have negative effects and confirmed that the agreement they reached with Iran represents a new opportunity for diplomacy. And although some countries in the Security Council could vote against the sanctions, none of them have veto power. China and Russia were the only permanent members in the Security Council to have asked for the amendment of the sanctions, so they don't paralyze the Iranian economy or hurt their interests. In case they are approved, the sanctions would heighten financial constraints, increase the inspection of ships, and expand the arms embargo. Ala Makki, BBC.
In another development, Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin said that he will meet with Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in Istanbul before the UN Security Council session set to vote on new sanctions on Iran. Putin said during a joint press conference with Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan that the long-delayed Iranian Bushehr nuclear plant will go into operation in August.
Journalism icon Helen Thomas has been forced to resign from her job at the White House. It's the end of a career that spanned 6 decades, covering 9 U.S. presidents. This because she criticized Israel for its attack on the Gaza aid flotilla. Press TV's Mike Kellerman reports from Washington.
It wasn't long ago that President Obama was helping Helen Thomas celebrate her 89th birthday here in the White House press room as she sat in a seat that has, for years, been reserved just for her, because she's been the dean of the Washington Press Corps, the longest surviving White House reporter, there asking tough questions of every American president since Dwight D. Eisenhower, mostly for the news service United Press International, where she spent 57 years at the White House, bothering presidents with pesky questions that no one else in the press corps had the courage to ask.
Do you know of any country in the Middle East that has nuclear weapons?
Well, she's an American of Lebanese descent, and while having strong views on the Middle East, kept them to herself for many years until last week, when reacting to Israel's attack on the Gaza relief flotilla, she told an internet interviewer, quote, "The Jews of Israel need to get the hell out of Palestine and return to Poland and Germany." She immediately apologized, but it did no good. Her comments caused a furor and a firestorm of criticism. Today, her seat was empty, as White House spokesman Robert Gibbs issued a statement condemning her remarks that many in Washington found offensive, including President Obama.
Those remarks were offensive and reprehensible. I think she should and has apologized because obviously those remarks do not reflect certainly the opinion of, I assume, most of the people in here, and certainly not of the administration.
Her current employer, Hearst Newspapers, where she's a columnist, issued a statement saying she has, quote, retired, but in fact she was sacked, just as she was sacked by her publicist and then disinvited from speaking at a local high school graduation ceremony. All because, says media expert Darrell West, she made the mistake of saying something against Israel publicly in a town where Israel carries favor.
Washington is not a very forgiving town. You know, even if it is one short statement that people don't like, you can be vilified for that. You can lose jobs over that. You can lose your social cachet. You can have invitations that people cancel, and she is experiencing all of those things. And so it really shows the up and down nature of what goes on in this city.
For Washington journalism, it's the end of an era. For this president and future presidents, probably no more embarrassing questions about the Middle East. Mike Kellerman, Press TV, the White House.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Tony Blair, the representative of the Quartet for the Middle East, to discuss ways to ease the siege on Gaza.
Meanwhile, Izzat al-Rashek, a member of Hamas's political office, said that the movement is willing to discuss any European proposal to monitor the naval movement into Gaza and the deployment of European observers to the Rafah crossing, as long as Israel does not interfere.
لم تصل سفن قافلة الحرية إلى ميناء غزة.
The Freedom Flotilla did not arrive to Gaza's port, but thanks to the Israeli attack, it has undoubtedly created a strong political reaction against the siege on Gaza. What happened shocked the world, and after 4 years of the siege, it was alerted to what is happening in Gaza. This marked the beginning of international action. Turkey, which played the largest role in the flotilla, said that lifting the siege on Gaza is its most important demand following the attack. Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan reiterated that Turkey will not be silent. The attack on the flotilla also affected another country. Egypt decided to open the Rafah crossing without giving a time frame as to how long it will remain open. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry spokesperson also said that his country is holding negotiations with European countries in order to lift the siege on Gaza. Hamas responded by saying that it has no objections to the return of European observers to the Rafah crossing and expressed its willingness to discuss similar arrangement for naval traffic. The reactions were not exclusive to the Arab and Muslim nations. Vice President Joe Biden, who previously supported the way in which Israel dealt with the flotilla, announced that Washington is discussing with Egypt and other partners new ways to deal with the humanitarian, economic, and political situation in Gaza. The American position, which seems to want to ease the international pressure on Israel, coincided with European calls to stop the humanitarian suffering in Gaza. However, the question is, what will all of this lead to? After all, even in Israel, there are discussions over easing the siege. The Israeli Prime Minister and the representative of the Quartet for the Middle East, Tony Blair, are supposedly discussing this matter. Israeli officials are talking about the role that the United Nations can play in searching goods before entering Gaza. This indicates that the siege on Gaza will change, but the question is, how will it change? Will the siege be ended altogether, or will it be eased and given international legitimacy?
لكن مع صبغه بصبغة الشرعية الدولية هذه المرة.
By forming an inquiry committee to allegedly look into the Gaza blockade, Israel is preempting international efforts to investigate the attack on the Freedom Flotilla. The 7 prominent ministers in the Netanyahu government agreed to form the committee, composed of former Navy, Army, and intelligence agencies, and headed by General Kraut Alan. The committee will also include 2 foreign legal experts, who will be picked by Israel. These measures come as Israel's government is in a state of confusion due to international pressure to accept an international investigation, and as political opponents are looking for an opportunity to have the Israeli parliament vote on a no-confidence motion against Netanyahu. However, these fears did not stop the parliament from stripping Israeli Arab Knesset member Hanin Zubi from some of her parliamentary rights, including the withdrawal of her diplomatic passport due to her participation in the Freedom Flotilla. We leave you with Mohammed al-Said from occupied Jerusalem.
After the Israeli attack on the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, right-wing Israeli parties have desperately been trying to marginalize Arab Israelis and have accused them of not being loyal to the State of Israel. The Knesset committee recommended that the Arab Israeli Knesset member Hanan al-Zo'bi's parliament rights be revoked due to her participation in the Freedom Flotilla. The committee also recommended that her diplomatic passport be withdrawn.
They withdrew my rights. This will will also be followed by the automatic approval of this racist parliament, this fascist parliament, this bankrupt parliament. I'm happy that the world discovered what is happening. I'm happy that those who have traditionally supported Israel now realize the truth about Israel.
The decision that will be carried out against the Arab representatives in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, aims to prevent them from reaching their Palestinian and Arab brothers and aims to isolate them from each other. This coincides with Israeli Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman's racist motto, no loyalty, no citizenship, while the retraction of Arab voices in the Knesset remains a stake for the people's movement.
We used to think that this is only the case of the Lebanese party, which took Arab hatred into politics and the parliament. But now this phenomenon has become dominant in the Knesset, in the speeches of the Knesset members, and even in the government.
For us, the most important thing is public opinion. We are focusing on public opinion, which is strong, aware, and united. We are entering a battle here in the name of these people.
Israel's confusion is reflected in its parliament and government. Some refuse to form an international investigation committee, while others support it. Meanwhile, the matter also applies to the Israeli investigation committee. Alongside this controversy, political scuffle only increased when the largest political party, Kadima, brought forward a no-confidence motion against the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. With this unprecedented rule, the official Israeli organization violated all laws. And it did not stop with the attack on Arab Israeli citizens here. It even reached those who are supposed to have diplomatic immunity in order to equally subject everyone to this new kind of racism.
The Israeli Navy thwarted a terrorist attack from the sea off the coast of Gaza early this morning. The IDF spokesman said a naval commando unit opened fire at a boat carrying a cell of 5 armed Palestinians wearing diving suits. No Israeli soldiers were injured in the operation. It's unclear what happened to the 5th terrorist. The Fatah-affiliated Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade said the gunmen were not planning an attack, but were training. However, the IDF said terror groups in Gaza have been finding it difficult to carry out attacks along the border fence and were looking for different ways to launch operations. The IDF said the size of the unit and equipment it was carrying indicated they were on their way to carry out a large-scale attack. A military official said the operation was a boost for the elite naval commando unit after the criticism of the flotilla raid last week. And in a second incident, the Israeli Air Force said it struck a terror cell this morning in northern Gaza as they tried to fire a Qassam rocket into Israel.
This morning's incident, in which 5 terrorists tried to infiltrate Israel through the sea, is yet another proof of what is happening in the Gaza Strip under the terror rule of Hamas. It has become a platform for attacks on Israel. Hamas has been very open about this. They say that anytime they can, they will carry out attacks. There are other terror groups in Gaza, such as the Islamic Jihad and others, who do the same. They don't conceal their intention. And this is the explanation why the border, both land and sea border with Gaza, need to be strictly and tightly controlled. We can't allow Hamas to carry out attacks at will on Israelis, on Israeli territory.
A final decision has not been made, but it appears that Israel will create its own commission of inquiry to investigate the incidents surrounding the takeover of the Gaza-bound flotilla. The inner cabinet of 7 ministers met today for the 3rd day, and reports are circulating that the commission will include senior legal specialists with expertise in international and naval law and will be attended by 1 or 2 foreign observers. But calls for an international probe continue, as we see in this report from IBA's Ellie Walker-Lanter.
Israel has said it will not agree to an external investigation of its raid on the blockade-running Gaza-bound ship that left 9 terrorists dead. Ambassador to the U.S. Michael Oren spoke on Fox News last night.
Israel has the ability and the right to investigate itself, not to be investigated by any international board. I don't think the United States would want an international inquiry into its military activities in Afghanistan, for example.
Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman said any probe of the May 31st raid must be conducted by Israelis, though it may include international observers. There is no problem with high-level, well-known international observers serving as partners in the process, Lieberman said yesterday. Demands for an outside probe have been building around the world. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has discussed with Turkey and Israel ways to move forward, which would include Turkey and Israel, as well as others appointed by the UN, and would be headed by former New Zealand Prime Minister Geoffrey Palmer.
Activist Nabil Al-Halak, coordinator of media relations in the National Initiative Committee, was on board the Freedom Flotilla. He has now arrived at Rafiq al-Hariri International Airport. Halak arrived from Istanbul with Middle East Airlines. The National Initiative Committee for Breaking the Siege on Gaza held a warm welcome ceremony for Halak at the airport. Halak affirmed that the mission of the Freedom Flotilla was successfully accomplished, expressing gratitude to Turkey for the official position taken by Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan. When asked whether he will participate in any similar flotillas in the future, Halak said, "I would be the coordinator of the flotilla and wait for the surprises."
Military leader Brigadier General Jean Kahwaji expressed hope for a unified Arab position in light of the current challenges, stressing that the Arabs share the same destiny and the same enemy. During Kahwaji's visit to Fuad Shihab Command and Staff College, he affirmed the importance of consolidating national solidarity in order to face the enemy's conspiracy of sowing dissent and stirring strife among them as a means to get out of its own dilemma. He indicated that the monstrous crime that was committed against the people on the Freedom Flotilla has caused Arab and international damage and confusion on various levels.
Students from Haja Bahia Al-Hariri School reenacted scenes from the Freedom Flotilla under the slogan, "From Saida to the Sea of Gaza," to express their solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Students from Haja Bahia Al-Hariri School in Saida broke the Israeli siege imposed on the Gaza Strip in their own way. Their mini flotilla sailed off from Sayadin port near Sidon's Sea Castle, representing the Freedom Flotilla with its activists from different countries and its martyrs and wounded who fell under the bullets of Zionist soldiers. More than 200 children from the drama department of the Bahia School finished their end-of-year exams and staged an expressive scene between the land and the sea. Dozens of them sailed off in 5 boats carrying the flags of the countries of the activists who were on board the Freedom Flotilla, and especially Turkey's flag. These boats sailed around the sea castle and then returned to the coast in the form of a mini fleet. Their schoolmates on the port reenacted the resistance and suffering of their brothers and sisters in Gaza, waving their hands to the boats from behind a wall that symbolizes the imprisonment by Israel.
ملوحين لهم بأيديهم من وراء سياج يرمز إلى الأسر الإسرائيلي.
This is Israel, an enemy of peace.
It is a different kind of expression. It is a reenactment of the scene by the drama students from Haja Bahia Al-Hariri School, expressing a message of solidarity that arrived to Gaza with the Freedom Flotilla.
At the end of the performance, some participants raised a banner symbolizing the international position taken following the events in Gaza and Palestine. Meanwhile, their schoolmates waved their arms, painted in colors of the national flags of the countries of the volunteers who participated in the Freedom Flotilla, holding up banners greeting them and the resolute Gazans.
Al-Qaeda in Iraq. It's a terrorist network that brings death and destruction. Its goal is to hit hard the country's infrastructure and government institutions, as well as target its markets and houses of worship.
On a day like this one in 2006, Al-Qaeda witnessed a major setback after the killing of its leader in Iraq, terrorist Abu Musab al-Zarqawi.
As the emir of Al-Qaeda in the country of the 2 rivers, I pledge allegiance to Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda in Iraq. It means death, bombings, destruction, kidnappings, displacement, and the string of sectarian strife in the nation. 4 years have passed since the death of terrorist leader Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, just weeks after the formation of the Iraqi government, specifically in June 2006. On that day, Iraqi Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki announced the death of Amir al-Qaeda in Iraq, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, who was killed in a joint military operation in the Diyala province. At the time, his death was described as a major blow that broke Al-Qaeda's backbone.
Today, al-Zarqawi was eliminated.
Following al-Zarqawi's death, everyone expected the campaign of death and destruction in Iraq to come to an end. However, the campaign continued with the appointment of Abu Umar al-Baghdadi and Abu Ayyub al-Masri as the Zarqawi's successors. Following al-Zarqawi's death, Al-Qaeda started to lose ground to the Iraqi security forces, and the Iraqi exhibited in the growing capabilities of its security agencies. In 2008, the country started to witness relative calm. In 2009, the level of security and stability reached an unprecedented level, which led to the return of many Iraqi expatriates and refugees to Baghdad. At the end of 2009 and during the beginning of 2010, the security scene in Iraq relatively changed. A series of terrorist attacks were unleashed in the country, nearly on a daily basis, targeting the country's infrastructure and vital institutions. Among the targets that were hit hard were Iraqi ministries, judicial institutions, as well as markets. As always, the average citizen was the one to pay the price. The terror campaign aimed to undermine the victories achieved by Iraqi security agencies. On April 19, 2010, Iraqi Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki announced the death of two terrorist leaders, Abu Umar al-Baghdadi, Emir of the so-called Islamic State of Iraq, and his aide Abu Ayyub al-Masri. The two terrorists were killed in an airstrike similar to the one that targeted al-Zarqawi.
I would like to bring you good news regarding the death of Abu Omar al-Baghdadi and Abu Ayyub al-Masri, who were hiding in a hole in the area of Tartar when they were killed in an airstrike.
During the offensive, the Iraqi government seized information and plans regarding the operations of the terrorist organization and the names of its top leaders. Some of the terror suspects were arrested in the process. Security agencies said that Al-Qaeda's activities have significantly decreased following the arrests of its top leaders, including the so-called Emir of Baghdad. Baghdad and the rest of Iraq's provinces, which have paid a hefty price over the past 7 years, have not died, as wishes for by the terrorists, and the Iraqi people did not kneel down as planned by the terrorists. Meanwhile, Iraqi security agencies continue to maintain control over all of Iraq, exposing the sham of Al-Qaeda and those who support it. From Baghdad, Mithaq Hikmat, Al-Iraqiya.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible from support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news. Read our blog. Get transcripts of past shows and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs, programs which connect you to the world.